G'day legends. Today we are going to be talking about the narrative of scared. I wanted to bring this up coming off a few interviews, a couple of them from Jon Jones, but more recently the Colby Covington interview. Let's just start off rather than playing all the little clips. I will play one of the clips, but essentially DC was giving Colby Covington a hard time, okay? He made some comments. Colby Covington needs to fight down because of his position and where he is in the rankings and how often he has fought for a title. And then Colby Covington went on some podcast, who cares? And the podcasters asked him what he thought about DC's opinions. Colby then went on his usual rant about blaming soy liberals for the state of his career, which I don't know, Colby, like blaming other people and being the victim seems like a very soy liberal thing to do to me. But hey, I'm just an Aussie with a smartphone. What do I know? One of the things that Colby said though is one of the biggest narratives that I hear and I hate so much. I listen to these interviews and it's something that you only get from the old vets. And it's something like this. Let's play the clip.
Fights, this kid's a nobody. He just got a split decision over the 12th ranked kid. I've been fighting world champion after world champion for the last 7 years straight. So why does this kid deserve to fight me? You know, he's literally the B side and he thinks he calls the shots and is the A side.
And Jon Jones has gone ahead and tweeted and said similar things in the past about letting his resume do the talking, about how he's only fought champions for like 10 years, how Tom Aspinall hasn't done enough to deserve a fight against him because nobody's ever heard of him and he hasn't done enough to earn this fight against Jon Jones. This narrative that these fighters talk about, the you haven't done enough to fight me narrative, that narrative is so counter UFC and anti-MMA to me. It is so against the grain of what we are doing here. And it's one of the things that gets under my skin more than anything else for a number of reasons, which I will bring up right now. The first reason is that if you're at the top of a division, whether that's in the top 5 as a contender or a champion, you are essentially telling the world that in the ultimate fighting organization where all the different martial arts come together, you are better than anybody else on any given day at this particular weight class. This sport is meant to be about the best versus the best. It means you are either slugging your way to the top, or once you get to the top and you are a dominant champion, you are pushing back the contenders. And I believe when a fighter starts to give out this narrative of, I no longer need to fight people below me, what they are really showing us is how truly scared they are that they are getting towards the end of their career. And they know that they can no longer get those crucial wins against the young, hungry up-and-comers. Somewhere inside them, they know that the end is coming. Like they have been doing this their entire life, going from amateur to pre-UFC to UFC. They've gotten all the way into the position where they are now the ones sitting in the interview chair most weekends. Everybody knows their name. It's their highlights that are getting played on ESPN. They're the ones where small channels and small accounts, they're the ones that are constantly getting at and mentioned. Like being at the top of your game in the UFC, you must feel like a fucking rock star where you can just scroll onto ESPN and see your highlights up there. And then to pair that, they have seen the old retired vets popping into their gyms, shaking hands with the people around the gym. Not really that many people care. UFC Embedded might even be at the gym at the same time, filming for this month's up-and-coming pay-per-view. And the next hot up-and-coming contender is right there and all the cameras are on him. And Donald Cerrone is in the corner just shaking hands, chilling out, and no cameras are on him anymore, right? Or fucking Josh Barnett walks into the gym and nobody could give a shit, right? They see that future for themselves. And that is a dark hole to them for what is next after the UFC. It is that question of what do I do with my life when ESPN is no longer interviewing me? What do I do after this? Like Alexander Volkanovski and Dustin Poirier and many others have been so vocal about this feeling of loss once their career is over. In fact, when Volk came out and talked about that, how he had this void inside of him that he needed to fill with some activity, and that was just because of inactivity, because of an injury. So many athletes, not just in MMA, but around the world, reached out to Volk saying that they feel the exact same way. They are not sure what their lives are going to look like once this important thing is taken away from them, right? And that is what the next up-and-comer represents. That's what the next hungry guy who's 28 to 31 represents to the 35-year-old who it hurts to get out of bed. The body's so much sorer from all the training sessions, and that young guy just springs out of bed. All of that is in that fight, and the 35-year-old now has to ask themselves, do I still have this, or how close to the end am I? And the excuse of you haven't done enough to earn a fight with me is that fighter being scared of answering that question to themselves. The real ones in the game, the real ones, the Dustin Poiriers, the Robert Whitakers, even the Neil Magnies and the Anthony Smiths, they are the ones that actually go out there and test themselves. And they are the ones that deserve all the respect, because they are the ones that actually face the fire and go in there and face everything, not just the punches in the face. I get it. I've heard this so many times, and I know somebody isn't even going to finish this video. They're just going to read the title and they're going to put this down there in the comments. I can guarantee it by now. I know what they're going to say is that no fighter is scared, or how can a fighter be scared, or how can you say that about a fighter? They're going into a cage essentially in their underwear, and they are in there facing somebody else knocking them out, right? They're in there facing their legs snapping or being put unconscious or their arm breaking. Like, how, Dougie, can you call them scared? Someone is going to type that in this video. But I think there are two types of fear here, right? There is the first kind of fear that people get over, and that a lot of people have, and that what a lot of these fighters experience, and it's easy for them to get over. And that's the kind of fear where it's the kind of person who doesn't mind going rock climbing on without a harness, or jumping out of a plane with a parachute, or getting into a fight with another man. That is one sort of fear and one sort of insane thrill. And in that fear, you can get mixed with adrenaline, and you can almost get high of putting yourself and your body in that position of fight or flight, and the adrenaline kicks in and you actually end up fighting and pushing through that, right? And people see that bravery in facing that, and they think that that is the only type of fear. But there is another type of fear. There is a second type of bravery. That is the one that is often overcompensated for by chasing the thrill. And that is to face emotional darkness inside, to really question, what are you doing this for? What do I have after this? How deep can I dig? What is my life going to look like after this? What really scares me when the rush of walking along some skyscraper in Moscow and looking down, when that rush is gone and it's just me living a normal, quiet life, how do I live with myself like that? That is a type of fear, especially people that have been addicted to big ticket moments their entire life and facing that afterwards. It's an emotional fear. And I'm sure it is one that every single fighter, or maybe even a human being, faces. Fighters like Colby Covington, whose career is in front of the cameras. And for fighters like Jon Jones, who clearly has a very fragile ego. Otherwise, why would Jon Jones be in some random dude's Twitter account comments, DMing him, trying to prove himself? Do you think a person that is not only successful, but has found self-fulfillment in their success, gives a fuck what some random Twitter commenter thinks? Do you really think that Elon Musk or Dana White or Dr. Dre or any of these people that have achieved wild success scroll through the Twitter comments wondering what the small folk, for lack of a better term, really fucking think of them? Or do you think they just focus on tomorrow and how they can build even more with what is around them? Jon Jones and Colby Covington have incredibly fragile egos. And I think I don't need to fight a person below me is protecting that fragile ego, and them being too scared to answer the question of whether or not they still have the balls to do this. The second thing that pisses me off about this is just the fact that this is the game that you are in, right? If you hold the title, or you hold the number 4 ranking, or you're somewhere in the top 5, you are saying that you are better than any other contender, right? And that you are there to fight everybody below you. That is the point of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And if you no longer feel that you can take on the young guy coming up, then that is the time to step away. to say, I can no longer do this. I have done everything that I could. No one could beat me when I was at my prime, and I can't do this anymore. You have seen fighters like Khabib, like GSP, before Henry Cejudo completely wrecked his career, when they say, you know what, I'm just too old, I haven't got anymore. And when they leave on top, people respect them and they go, man, in his prime, what a goat. And they don't have that bad taste in their mouth of seeing an Anderson Silva or Tony Ferguson level faller. Tony Ferguson's the worst example, of course, but they don't have that taste in their mouth of seeing that fall off. So if you can't fight the interim champion, or if you are ranked number 4th and you can't fight number 7th anymore, you have retired from that position. That is no longer your position in this game. You are breaking the rules of what we are trying to do here. That's it. That's all I got for this one. Let me know down there in the comments. Am I reading this completely wrong? Am I just way off on this one? Put it down there in the comments. Let me know. I am going to be live streaming the UFC Saudi Arabia, so come and check out for that. I am also trying to get to 1,000 subs. So bloody close. So if you got to all this way throughout the video, if you could hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, thank you. Hit the like button so this video pushes out to more people. You see what happens when you guys push the like button? Wildness. Until then, it is a bloody Friday, mate. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you live for the fights on Saturday night.